This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome. I'm Roger Stone, and this is The Roger Stone Show, broadcasting live today from the Willard Hotel in Washington, D.C. I'm in the nation's capital for a meeting tomorrow with President Donald Trump, although I saw the president at breakfast this morning. He was in a fine mood, particularly given the extraordinary breaking news of Friday. On Friday, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, released overwhelming evidence that former President Barack Obama and other top cabinet and intelligence community members conspired to subvert the will of the American people after President Trump won the 2016 election. The newly declassified Russiagate documents show that Obama and other high-level officials allegedly did everything they could to delegitimize President Trump's victory with false claims and countless smears. According to Gabbard, the newly released documents further prove a conspiracy that was perpetrated, essentially a years-long coup against President Donald Trump. She also stated that those involved reportedly hoped to destroy the mandate and legacy bestowed upon Donald Trump by the American people. This may well be the largest political crime in U.S. history. It is most definitely the greatest single dirty trick in American history, an abuse of power in which the full authority of the United States government and the incredible capabilities of our intelligence agencies were utilized to try to obliterate the fact that Donald Trump had legitimately won the election of 2016. Gabbard's release decisively obliterates the long-standing claim that Moscow swung the 2016 election for Donald Trump. It also marks the first time a senior Trump administration official has directly implicated former President Barack Obama as an active participant, indeed as the linchpin of this conspiracy. Gabbard's disclosure follows two earlier Trump-era document dumps, a May release detailing Nellie Ohr, the wife of FBI agent Bruce Ohr, regarding her sworn testimony and misrepresentations regarding Crossfire Hurricane, the operation set up by FBI Director James Comey, and an early July declassification of the December 2016 intelligence assessment on Russian interference in the 2016 elections. Gabbard is now calling for Obama and his national security officials to be prosecuted over their actions. The crime would be conspiracy to commit insurrection and insurrection against the United States. By going after Obama, Gabbard is delivering on exactly what President Trump's base has demanded. It shows why there has been a conspiracy to undermine her authority and to remove her from her position as the head of DNI. Neoconservatives such as Senator Tom Cotton and my friend Mark Levin, whose book, by the way, The Democrat Party Hates America, is one of the best books I've ever read, have led the charge against Gabbard in recent weeks, hoping to get her fired because of her principled opposition to war. But after that, she has now delivered on producing intelligence implicating direct implication here of Barack Obama's involvement in the coup to remove Trump. It is undeniable that she's among the most serious and reliable members of the Trump administration. Gabbard is fighting the good fight. She is making sure the Trump administration lives up to its mandate. Now, of course, the Russiagate smoking gun will be declassified by President Trump. Former CIA Director John Brennan is, as we now know, being investigated for criminal acts by the FBI over blatant perjury he engaged in before Congress. More disclosures that are to come will further implicate Brennan in various acts of criminality. On today's show, author and investigative journalist Lee Smith, the man who wrote The Plot Against the President, joins us to break down exactly what Brennan was up to and why it is highly likely that he, along with former President Barack Obama, will be among those who are prosecuted. President Trump told journalist John Solomon that he will soon declassify a report from John Durham's special investigation into the Russiagate collusion. This will reveal the, quote, Clinton plan intelligence that shows how the Clinton campaign devised the lie of Trump being a Russian agent to get the public's attention off of Hillary Clinton's illegal use of a private email server. Brennan's own notes indicate that he briefed former President Obama, former Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and former FBI Director James Comey over the contents of the so-called Clinton intelligence plan. This will be the smoking gun that shows how the Russiagate hoax was pushed by these Democrat officials as they knew that the intelligence that Trump had colluded with the Russians was entirely false. Finally, justice and accountability are coming, and the Democrats should be horrified by these developments. This morning, when I saw President Trump, we talked about this briefly, he expressed his confidence that Tulsi Gabbard would make a formal criminal referral to the Department of Justice so that former President Barack Obama is prosecuted, and he expressed his confidence that the Attorney General would do her job. This is a momentous day in American history. It's great to be back here in the Willard Hotel in Washington, D.C. This is the hotel that my wife and I were married in. Donald Trump and his then fiancée, Marla Maples, were among the guests at my wedding. It was in the lobby of this hotel that President Trump and Marla Maples, his fiancée, had an argument, and she actually threw her engagement ring at him. Made the Washington Post a big story of the fact that my wife and I, Nydia Bertrand Stone, were getting married. I think was down in paragraph 4. It's also in this hotel that false claims have been made that I was involved with others in the effort to delay the certification of the Electoral College in 2024 on January 6th. Actually, I was in this hotel on January 6th. I was here all day. I did go out briefly in front of the hotel in the morning, remaining on the hotel grounds. Any claim, of course, that I knew in advance about, condoned, or were involved in any illegal activity on January 6th is defamatory, it is malicious, it's false, it's probably actually actionable. As much as I enjoy the hotel, I came here to give a speech on January 5th, only steps from the hotel to a rally of thousands. It'd be great if you could watch that speech, but unfortunately, YouTube, which is the one place where the speech survived, took the speech down in a fit of censorship. Looking back on that speech, I expressed my concerns about the anomalies and irregularities in the 2020 election. Now, President Donald Trump has decided to investigate that election. But what sparked that was an announcement by FBI Director Kash Patel that over 200,000 fake American driver's licenses were shipped from China to Chicago, but they were obtained and collected by the FBI. The clear intended use of these driver's licenses was, of course, voter fraud. Kind of ironic that it would go to Chicago, which is known for voter fraud. Chicago, where the 1960 election was stolen from Richard M. Nixon by one John Fitzgerald Kennedy. But the FBI director, Christopher Wray, had testified in Congress that his agency had found no foreign interference into the election. In other words, he lied about this package of, or this, I should say, shipment of illegal phony driver's licenses. We need to get to the bottom of that. That is yet another stain. Also joining us in today's show is the Director of the Federal Housing Finance Administration, Bill Pulte. Bill Pulte has not only called on Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell to lower interest rates on the American people, but he's increasingly critical of the $2.5 billion renovation of the already palatial Federal Reserve headquarters here in Washington, D.C. I drove by that construction site this morning on my way to a breakfast with the president at his golf club, and the construction seems to be in full swing. Now, Pulte is a home builder. He's from one of the oldest and most respected home building families in the country. Of course, Donald Trump himself is from a home building family, the Trump Organization. Both men have said the same thing to me. They can't figure out how you could possibly spend $2.5 billion on a renovation of a building that was already extraordinary, a showplace. Now there's controversy about whether Powell misled Congress about how that $2.5 billion is going to be spent. So Bill Pulte will be joining us today on the Roger Stone Show as well. And then lastly, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna brings it once again, claiming she has been contacted by a whistleblower who can prove that the Epstein evidence in the hands of the Southern District of New York's prosecutors and the New York office of the FBI has been tampered with, and some evidentiary matters have been deleted. This is a bombshell show today. You're in the right place. I'm Roger Stone. This is the Roger Stone Show. Stick with us because we've got a lot more breaking political news for you. This is the hottest political talk show in America, right here on the Red Apple Audio Networks. Whatever you do, please, please do not touch that dial.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, and you're on the Roger Stone Show. The Trump administration has announced that they have arrested 150,000 criminal illegal immigrants in their first 6 months, an epic milestone in the largest deportation operation in American history. Now, Barack Obama deported 2.6 million illegals. Virtually every president, starting with Dwight Eisenhower, who deported 1.3 million illegals, but every president, Republican and Democrat, has deported far more than 1 million illegals. But Joe Biden's 4 years in office, where essentially we had an open borders policy, and where illegal border crossings on our both northern and southern border were completely unmonitored, essentially. There may be as many as 30 illegal immigrants in America today. We know that at least 321 of them have been identified as terrorists, based on what we know about them. But we have no idea how many more terrorists may have come across our borders. We have no idea of the sophisticated weaponry that many of them brought with them. So the possibility of terror cells here in the United States is very, very real. Stephen Miller made the announcement on Fox News, where he announced that this was just the beginning and millions more of illegal immigrants will be detained and removed from the country in the months to come. fulfilling President Trump's campaign promise of mass deportations. This makes it of paramount importance to protect ICE and law enforcement against Democrat attempts to intimidate, unmask, and dox them. Leftists have increasingly resorted to outright terrorism in their desperate attempts to stop ICE agents from enforcing the law. These ICE agents are on the front lines in the effort to save our country, and they deserve our full-fledged support. Meanwhile, as I called for in Tampa last weekend, Attorney General Pam Bondi has filed a motion in court in New York, the Jeffrey Epstein files. Following President Trump's directive, Attorney General Bondi filed the motion to unseal grand jury transcripts and the search warrants of deceased pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Her filing states, public officials, lawmakers, pundits, and ordinary citizens remain deeply interested and concerned about the Epstein matter. Indeed, other jurists have released grand jury transcripts after concluding that Epstein's case qualifies as a matter of public interest and concern. Now, it's interesting that Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois actually moved in the Senate to block the release of all the Jeffrey Epstein files, but only this week he was demanding that the files be released. Donald Trump has said repeatedly that this entire matter is a hoax. I don't think he was ever saying that Jeffrey Epstein was not trafficking children. He was not saying that there was no pedophile ring here. What he was saying is correct, and it's been demonstrated by the acts of this week. These records, the grand jury testimony and the search warrants pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein have been in the hands of the Southern District of New York prosecutors, and it is highly likely, in fact now certain, that they have been salted with poison pills. Last week, the Wall Street Journal published a forged birthday card that is falsely attributed from Trump to Epstein. Anyone with half a brain can look at this and see that it is what we in New York would call a complete fugazi. It's a fraud, folks. Look for more of this. We know that Trump cut Epstein off in 2020, before he was charged in Florida with sex crimes. I'm Roger Stone. We'll be right back with the great Lee Smith. So whatever you do, don't go away.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Your burger is served, and this is our finest Pepsi Zero Sugar. Its sweet profile perfectly balances the savory notes of your burger.
That is one perfect combination. Burgers deserve Pepsi.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, and you're on The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Audio Networks. Joining me now is Lee Smith. He is the author of the New York Times bestseller, The Plot Against the President, the true story of how Congressman Devin Nunes uncovered the biggest political scandal. To say that Lee Smith has been ahead of the curve journalistically when it comes to the Russian collusion hoax would be the understatement of the century. President Donald Trump said that Lee Smith is a great American patriot who has understood from the very beginning that the radical left is the true threat to democracy. Lee Smith's latest book, Disappearing the President, is a synopsis of how even before a would-be killer tried to murder President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, a clique of political assassins, including Barack Obama, as we now know, set about eliminating him from public life entirely. I can't think of a more on-point guest for this moment in American history. Lee Smith, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Roger, thanks for the super kind introduction. It's always great to speak with you. Thank you so much.
You have an incredible new piece up at Tablet, The Brennan Forgery, which I think we'll talk about in a minute. I want to put it within the context of everything that has transpired in the last 72 hours. But this is an incredible turn of events. Only weeks ago, people were speculating that Tulsi Gabbard was about to get the axe. There were reports that a report put out by the Central Intelligence Agency and former Congressman John Radcliffe, now the CIA director, which nailed John Brennan for pressing to push the Steele dossier into President Barack Obama's intelligence community assessment, something that you pointed out Obama was waiting for, knew would arrive, was a fraud. But what are the most important bombshells from Tulsi Gabbard in this ODNI drop?
Well, I mean, we've known for a while that that Barack Obama was involved. We didn't have as good insight into it, and the DNI drop on Friday really showed that Obama had convened this meeting. They held up publication of the presidential daily briefing to put in all sorts of stuff implicating Donald Trump and their absurd collusion plot. So again, we had some idea. We had a very good idea that the level of Barack Obama's involvement, but now really to have emails and to have a document talking about different meetings and who was there, what agencies, what government institutions were represented. I mean, it's really very important, and it really clarifies a lot of things. So, all of us, Roger, especially someone like you and other people, Michael Caputo, Michael Flynn, Sergey Milian, all the different people who have suffered, who have been punished by Obama's spy chiefs and targeted by the media, and all the price that all of you paid, just terrible. But the country was targeted as well. So to see more clarity on this, to have more clarification, and furthering our hopes for justice, that finally there will be justice, and that the people who were responsible for turning America upside down, the people who were responsible for destabilizing the government of the United States, that these people may finally pay the price, and our justice system will be set right again.
Roughly, maybe 10 days ago, I put up on X a comprehensive list of those who I think were involved in this insurrection against the government, leading, of course, with Barack Obama, Vice President Joe Biden, National Security Advisor Susan Rice, FBI Director James Comey, CIA Director John Brennan, Acting Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, perhaps the biggest rat of them all, actually, Robert Mueller. But I mistakenly listed Sergey Milian in that list. I regretted that, and pointed that out to me. Was happy to. Well,
that was very kind of you. Of course, and that was very, very kind of you to be attentive. I mean, again, all of you guys, everything that all of you were put through, and your families. I've seen Michael Caputo on social media the last couple hours, or actually for the last 24 hours or so, and it's. It reminds me of what was going on 5-6 years ago when all of you were being put through this at that time. And it stirs up again, I can't imagine what it's like for you and your family, Roger, but I mean, just me as someone who reported on it and was looking at it like that, and it's very painful for many Americans just to think about the suffering that you and your families were put through. God bless you, and God bless, your family and everyone who was victimized by these animals, starting with Barack Obama.
Interestingly, I go online today and I see in social media people saying, well, the Senate Intelligence Committee report absolutely proved that there was Russian collusion. I must tell you, I have a piece up. You can go to stonezone.com. I have a piece entitled, The Senate Intelligence Committee Report is Bunk. I take every single allegation against me in that report, and I proved how not a single one of them is true. The Senate Intelligence Committee report is a paste up from Huffington Post. In other words, they took any unsubstantiated claim against anybody who was for Donald Trump and they pasted it into one document as if it is fact. And they say, oh, this is bipartisan. Yeah, you had a couple Republicans on that committee who hate Donald Trump. But there were no Trump supporters on the Senate Intelligence Committee, even among Republicans, to ask any critical questions. Mark Warner, the ranking Democrat, should be ashamed of himself putting his name on this piece of garbage. It really is a steaming pile of crap, and it proves nothing whatsoever. They keep holding it out as some definitive evidence. And then others cite the Mueller report. Now, I had to fight to get the sections of the Mueller report regarding me unredacted, and I now know why the judge withheld them from my defense attorneys at trial. Because on page 178 of Mueller's report, he admits he could not sugarcoat the fact that he found no evidence of collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any other crime on my part. He actually concluded that although they couldn't find that I had received any materials from WikiLeaks, even if they had found such a thing, it would not have been illegal. It would have been covered by my First Amendment rights. You can see why the judge denied that to my criminal defense attorneys at trial. Is really an extraordinary thing. The fact that this was disclosed only when BuzzFeed sued the Justice Department, and the Justice Department was forced to release the unredacted report. They did so at midnight on Election Day of 2020, the busiest media day of the year, to make sure that it got no coverage. It's never been reported by the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the Associated Press. It is outrageous, but it is a perfect example of what you're talking about. Let's go to this excellent piece that you wrote in Tablet about John Brennan's forgery. Can you elaborate for us on how Brennan was the criminal architect of the Russiagate collusion?
Well, it's a little dense. Let me start off with this. There was an item in the paper. There was an item in the press earlier in the week by the great John Solomon, and John Solomon had an interview with President Trump. And Solomon asked the president if he was going to declassify something known as the Clinton Plan Intelligence. This is in John Durham's May 2023 report, but it apparently has not been seen yet by the public, and hopefully we will see it soon. And the president said that he's keen to declassify this so Americans will see it. What the Clinton Plan Intelligence was it was information that had been received by the Central Intelligence Agency that the Russians were aware that Hillary Clinton was trying to frame Donald Trump as a Russian agent. So that an American ally, an allied intelligence service, picked up this information and they shot it back to the CIA. What happened was, it appears that intelligence was supposed to have been distributed by John Brennan's CIA to different people working on the Trump-Russia investigation. According to Durham's report, they never saw it. So that seems to implicate John Brennan and maybe others in the CIA and the FBI in withholding evidence, tampering with evidence. So there's a lot of things that investigators right now at DOJ and FBI are likely to be looking at, including, of course, the different aspects of the DNI's most recent release on Friday. But I suspect they're looking at that too. If that's a question that John Solomon is talking about with the president, I imagine they're going to be looking at, again, what's called the Clinton Plan Intelligence. And it's just insanely bizarre, Roger, because this is the one piece of Russian intelligence that American spy services really picked up. The fact that the Russians knew that Hillary Clinton was cooking up a smear job to hurt Donald Trump by accusing him of being a Russian agent. Now, of course, the real problem came in after the election, when it wasn't just part of a dirty tricks campaign. But again, the fact that Barack Obama, John Brennan, James Comey, James Clapper, they all knew what was going on. They were all aware that this was a Hillary Clinton trick. So that Barack Obama turned this into an instrument to hobble the Donald Trump administration, starting during the transition period, right after the election, up until the inauguration. I certainly expect that that's something that investigators at DOJ and FBI will be looking at very closely. And let's remember, I mean, there's no one who understands these documents better than Kash Patel, the FBI director, since Kash was the lead investigator on Devin Nunes' House Intelligence Committee investigation. So, again, Roger, I'm optimistic. I know that you're optimistic too. That finally we'll get some justice. We'll get some answers, and I hope. I'm sure your great audience is optimistic too, and I hope all Americans see that finally that we may be turning a corner here. And the issue here, I believe, it's not just vengeance. Though certainly to repay people who have done bad things to Americans just because they disagree with them politically, yes, these people deserve a measure of what they doled out without question. But it's also the only way that I see that we're going to fix our political system in the long term, that people are held accountable for the bad things that they did to Americans and the way that they abused the justice system.
All right, folks, if you're just tuning in, we're talking to the great Lee Smith, the author of Disappearing the President, and we'll be right back.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back on the Roger Stone Show. We're talking to Lee Smith. He is the author of Disappearing the President. This is an incredible book. It demonstrates how a network of powerful partisan activists waged a scorched earth war to eradicate President Donald Trump and any vestige of his influence. They resorted to an unprecedented campaign of domestic spying, election rigging, brute force censorship, and political violence. And they undermined the institution of the government. They sabotaged countless other vital institutions in their relentless quest to crush Donald Trump. I strongly urge you to go to either Amazon or Barnes & Noble, any place you can buy books, and get your copy of Disappearing the President. This is one of the most shocking and informative books that I have read in my 50 years in American politics. We're back with Lee Smith now. It is an extraordinary time to be alive as an American, as it appears that Barack Obama, who was really the progenitor of the Russian collusion hoax, we knew it previously, but now, based on actions by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, we have absolute stone-cold proof of the fact. And Gabbard has announced that she will send a criminal referral to the Department of Justice for the prosecution of the former president. Now, people say, well, how can you prosecute a president? Well, are you kidding me? I mean, Donald Trump was prosecuted in New York on a series of completely fictitious crimes. They tried to keep him off the ballot in 50 states. They tried to bankrupt him. Yes, they tried to send him to jail. It is only through his personal persistence, his stamina, his courage, his fight, that he staged the greatest comeback in American political history. And now we're dedicated to a period of truth. And the truth is coming out. Nobody knows more about this than Lee Smith. He wrote The Plot Against the President, later turned into an award-winning documentary, and we are honored to have him with us. Lee, let's go back to John Brennan again.
Yeah.
One theory investigators are pursuing relates to Brennan's notes of his August 3rd briefing at the White House. In the time we have left, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, this is when he said he was telling Obama and Comey and Loretta Lynch about the Clinton plan. Again, this was when he's talking about how the Russians found out that Hillary Clinton's campaign was trying to smear Trump as a Russian agent. So the interesting thing about this is that these handwritten notes document the fact that the CIA director told the then president of the United States about the Clinton plan. So to me, Roger, that's indicative of the fact that John Brennan is totally capable of implicating the President of the United States. I don't, of course, I have no real insight into whatever investigation may be going on now. I'm saying that insofar as John Brennan's testimony would be probably pretty crucial to charging Obama, I'm saying that Brennan's already done it. He's already implicated him. And, Brennan is one of these guys that, he's one of these guys that's always going to want someone else to take the fall. And this is really the crucial thing to understand. Roger, you know Washington better than anyone. And all these people are bureaucrats, right? These aren't leaders. These aren't broad-chested American patriots like Donald J. Trump, right? These are all bureaucrats. And even if they're at the top of the agency, men like James Comey and John Brennan, these guys don't do anything without having top cover. And that top cover came from Barack Obama. So, look, I have no insight into the investigation or whatever investigations there may be, who exactly they're looking at. But insofar as people are rightly pointing at Barack Obama as the very top of this pyramid, and again, this is what I've been doing now certainly since Plot Against the President in 2019, and during Disappearing the President lays out the case all the way from 2016 to 2024, what Obama and the Shadow Network have been up to. So, yeah, Barack Obama is absolutely involved. Whether he will be held accountable as well, I certainly hope so. We will see in the coming weeks and months.
All right, I want to thank our guest, Lee Smith. He is, again, the author of Disappearing the President. Urge you to go order that blockbuster book today. Lee, thank you so much for joining us today on The Roger Stone Show. And folks, whatever you do, don't go away, because William J. Pulte, chairman of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who President Trump praised seconds ago on Truth Social, will be joining us right here on The Roger Stone Show.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Audio Networks. Only minutes ago, President Donald Trump posted this to his Truth Social account. Congratulations to William J. Pulte, chairman of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the government's two mortgage agencies, and director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, on the outstanding job he is doing. Keep moving forward, William. Don't let the radical left weaklings stop you. Joining us now on the Newsmakers line is the man himself, William J. Bill Pulte. Bill, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Thank you, Roger. Always good talking to you.
Well, I think the president's absolutely right here. You are one of the very few people, other than Tulsi Gabbard, who is actually holding people accountable. I have to point out that it was you and your agency who uncovered the 22-year crime spree of New York Attorney General Letitia James, in which she repeatedly engaged in mortgage fraud that other Americans have been prosecuted and convicted of. And after an exhaustive investigation by your agency, you sent a criminal referral to the Department of Justice so that Letitia James would be held accountable like any other average American would. Now, Letitia James has said repeatedly that no person is above the law. No one is above the law. She accused President Donald Trump of overvaluing his assets in order to make and get commercial loans to finance his real estate projects. All of those loans were repaid on time. Those who made the loans got $40 million in interest. But now we learn that Letitia James has $586,000 worth in three mortgages on a property that appraises for $125,000, and that two of those mortgages are not reflected on her state-required disclosure forms. So you made a criminal referral to the Department of Justice on this matter. Tell us in a nutshell what your investigation into Letitia James and her mortgages showed.
Well, mortgage fraud is a real problem in this country, as you know, and pretty much everybody knows. I mean, everybody tries to get a mortgage when you get a home, and if we don't have a strong and secure system, the first thing that can happen is the economy can crater and the housing market can crater. So we've got to have a strong housing system, and so we are laser focused on mortgage fraud. And Roger, I would say this to you: it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or a celebrity or a lawyer or anything. If you commit mortgage fraud, we are going to hold you accountable. And so I don't want to get into any specific cases, like you had mentioned one of the cases, but I will say this. If people say that they live in one area and they don't live in another area and they claim two primary residences, or if they overstate their income, or if they do any other variety of misrepresentations, we can't have that in the mortgage market. It's not something that we're going to allow, and we're going to do everything we can within the confines of the law to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
I have to point out, Bill, once again, it was the investigators at your agency that uncovered similar mortgage fraud by Watermelon Head himself, pencil neck Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff defends himself by saying, President Trump has problems with the fact that I own two homes. No, the president himself posted these publicly available documents on his social media platform only minutes ago. Adam Schiff claimed that both his condo in Burbank and his home in Maryland were his principal legal residence, thus getting a lower mortgage rate and insurance rate on both properties. That is criminal fraud. If I did that, they would charge me immediately. So it seems to me that once again, I know you can't talk specifics about these cases. I'm only citing what has been publicly reported. But Adam Schiff, perhaps the greatest single congenital liar, huckster, and con man in the history of the U.S. Congress, has been busted. I just got an email, I guess it was a text message from my good friend David Schoen, the criminal defense lawyer, including this document, this affidavit that Schiff signed. And he just says, Schiff turns out to be a ganef, which is Yiddish for crook. And I think he has summed it up perfectly. Let's get to some bigger and more important issues. You have steadfastly called on Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, to cut the interest rates on the American people. Now, based on a study by Barry Habib, who is recognized in the country as one of the leading experts on housing and the mortgage market, it appears to me that today the two indicators that by law the Federal Reserve is supposed to use when they determine the level of interest rates, inflation and unemployment, are either at the same rate or lower than they were the last 4 times the Federal Reserve cut interest rates on the American people. And the excuse that Powell gives us is he's uncertain what Donald Trump's very successful effort to negotiate better tariff deals for this country will have on the country. Well, here's one indicator. In the month of June, for the first time in decades, the United States government ran a surplus. Donald Trump brought in more than $422 million in new revenue from tariffs, and all of the panicans who said, oh no, inflation will go through the ceiling, inflation has remained low and the dollar has remained strong. So tell us in your own words, Bill, why you think Jerome Powell isn't cutting interest rates on the American people so they could go buy a home or a car or a motorcycle or whatever it is they want to buy.
I have no idea, but what he is doing is costing the American people real money. As the president has pointed out, we could save hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars a year. But most importantly, people could be able to afford their credit card bills, their car loans. These are things that elites like Jerome Powell are just out of touch, and hopefully he's gone soon.
Now, there's a lot of controversy regarding a $2.5 billion renovation of his already palatial headquarters in Washington. It's on Constitution Avenue, I believe. I drove by that today. I looked at the construction site. First of all, you come from a long line of home builders. Pulte Homes, one of the most famous home building families in the country. How does one spend $2.5 billion on a renovation?
It's hard to believe, and frankly, I think that we're going to find out that there's a lot of fraud there. I think we're going to get to the bottom of it. You know, Russ Vought, as you may know, who's the OMB director, myself, James Blair, we are all going to a huge visit this week, a huge tour of the Fed building, and we are going to uncover what has gone on. I want to know, where did all this asbestos removal go? Where did all of the things that they say cost $2.5 billion go? Roger, you know, I've been in construction my whole life. I've never seen asbestos cost anywhere near $2.5 billion. So where did this money go? Somebody needs to explain it. I think it stinks to high heaven, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see fraud like you wouldn't even believe in this building.
Well, we're talking about 40% overruns on the estimated initial cost, 40%. Now, Jerome Powell testified before the U.S. Senate, and he specifically said that the renovation plans do not include a private elevator for the board governors, do not include a private dining room for the board governors, no new marble, no new fountains, no roof garden. His words, not mine. Cynthia Loomis, the senator from Wyoming, immediately pointed out after reviewing the plans that Jerome Powell lied under oath to the Senate on the material question because the plan does include all of those opulent accoutrements. This guy looks to me like he's in deep, deep trouble. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who's going to be joining us here soon, right here in the Roger Stone Show, has already sent a letter to the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, a criminal referral letter regarding the false testimony of Jerome Powell. This guy is, he's an elite, and I think he's acting in a partisan way. He knows that if he allows the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates, this economy will boom like never, ever before. He's the one acting politically. And I love the way President Trump and you and others refer to him as too late Powell. He's like a man looking at outdated data. He's like a man driving a car while looking in the rearview mirror. He really should step down if he doesn't want this economy to boom, if he doesn't want the average American to be able to afford to pay their credit card bills or own a new home or buy a new car. I really think it's time for him to step down. We've got about 2 minutes to this segment. Bill, you can add your thoughts to that sentiment. Here's, we may have lost William J. Pulte. We'll give
there. Yeah, it just cut out. Go ahead.
So, Bill, I was just saying it was time for Jerome Powell to step down, don't you think?
It's time for him to step down. And look, here's the reality of the situation, Roger. If he doesn't step down, I think we're going to continue to uncover fraud. I think we're going to continue to uncover what has been going on at the Federal Reserve. I mean, think about all the money that's being spent in this building, $2.5 billion. And I wouldn't be surprised to see who's financing this building, who's making money on this building. These are all things we're going to do. You know, they offered us a tour, Roger, at 7 o'clock on Friday night. They knew that the president had a dinner with senators at 7 o'clock on Friday night. So this thing is just, it gets worse by the day, and we're not going to stop. We're going to keep on going. And again, we have 4 years to save the country. So every day, every hour is absolutely critical right now.
Bill Pulte made a crucial decision recently where you can count your cryptocurrency holdings when you, as part of your assets when you apply for a mortgage. He also provides more consumer choice when people have to go get a credit score. We're going to talk about those things when we get back. You're listening to The Roger Stone Show and the Red Apple Audio Networks, and we're talking to Bill Pulte. He is the chairman of both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, as well as the Federal Housing Finance Authority. President Trump praised him in a post on social media only minutes ago, saying that Bill is doing a great job, but he should not be deterred by the left-wing weaklings who are trying to slow him down. I know, Bill Pulte, there is no chance of that. We'll be right back.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back. We're talking to William J. Bill Pulte. The Wall Street Journal did a piece. I think we in the trade we call this a hit piece because Bill Pulte is one of the most effective members of President Donald Trump's team. Certainly one of the most dynamic, and he's making waves at what is normally a very sleepy agency, fighting to cut interest rates and make homes more affordable for the American people. Bill, they called you Little Trump. If that was an effort to belittle you, I think they failed. I think that is a testimony to your guts, to your courage, to the fact that you are charging forward. That's why I think the president was so complimentary of you minutes ago on Truth Social. I've seen a lot of hit pieces, planted hit pieces in my day. This one seems to be generated about the fact that you have expanded consumer choice by law, according to the law, when people have to go get a credit score in order to apply for a mortgage. Explain this to us, if you would.
Well, basically what we're trying to do is enable the president's agenda, which is to make sure that home ownership is available for all people. And this doesn't matter no matter what socioeconomic background you're in. If you are black, white, Hispanic, you name it, and you can afford a mortgage, you should be able to get a mortgage in this country. And so for what's happened for so long, Roger, as you know, is that people, they weren't able to maybe fill out the FICO score 100% correctly because they had some medical bill back towards college. So what we've done is got a very predictive indicator, which is VantageScore. And hopefully FICO will come along, and hopefully there'll be way more credit scores that do this. But what it will allow you to do is count your rent towards your mortgage. And this is what should be happening in this country. If you are a candidate to be able to afford a mortgage, you should be able to get a mortgage. There shouldn't be some monopoly, whether it's FICO or any other monopoly, preventing you from doing it. And so that's what we're doing. And thanks to the president, we're able to get this done.
Another bold decision that I referred to briefly earlier is that when you apply for a mortgage, you can now use the cryptocurrency that you own as part of your assets that count towards your credit score and your ability to repay a mortgage. The president has emerged as a strong supporter of crypto. I think it is a bold move on his part. The Biden administration essentially tried to claim that cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, were securities, which they are not. They don't meet the 7-point test for what is a security. And they prosecuted people who were creating this new financial network. President Trump has embraced it, and now you, as the head of the FHFA, have embraced it. The average American who may have some of their assets in cryptocurrency or Bitcoins can use that when they apply for a mortgage. We got about a minute and a half, Bill. Why don't you wrap this up?
Well, basically, that's right. I mean, if you have crypto and you have Bitcoin, Bitcoin in many ways, people say, oh, it's not a stable asset. Well, in many ways, it's more of a stable asset than other things. I mean, so you look at it and you say, look, at some level, as long as we account for risk, as long as we keep things stable and safe and secure, why should we not count crypto towards your mortgage? And so we've taken those steps, and Roger obviously will do it in a safe and sound manner. We're not going to do anything that's crazy here. But why shouldn't crypto be counted? Whether it's rent and, making sure that that's predictive for a mortgage, or whether it's crypto, if things are common sense, we are going to do it in America.
Yeah, President Trump signed a bill on Friday that kind of essentially legalized, in a formal way, stablecoin on a one-for-one basis, which I think is going to be good news for those who do own crypto and might want to buy a home after Bill Pulte, working under Donald J. Trump, brings down interest rates to make American housing affordable again. Bill Pulte, thank you for joining us today on The Roger Stone Show.
Thank you, Roger.
Coming up next, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, a firebrand, and she really brings it. You're going to want to hear this.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. We have a lot of breaking news on the show. Joining me now is Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. She is in the forefront of so many of the most important fights facing this country. She's in her second term as a Congresswoman from Florida's 13th Congressional District. and you can't really pick up the news without learning that she is a firebrand among President Trump's most loyal supporters, deeply committed to the America First agenda. And I think all of the president's supporters over the last 2 weeks have been somewhat confused about his remarks regarding the Epstein scandal. Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted pedophile, convicted of sex crimes in Florida, charged in 2019 by the Trump Justice Department for child sex trafficking and conspiracy to engage in child sex trafficking. And the president kept repeatedly saying that this was a hoax. Well, he didn't mean that Epstein's being a child's a predator and a sex trafficker was a hoax. What he meant, and it's now abundantly clear, is the most important records, the grand jury testimony that was used to indict Epstein on both of those counts, as well as the search warrants, have been in the custody of the prosecutors in the Southern District of New York. This is the most partisan group of deep state partisans in the country, as well as the New York office of the FBI. So it is now absolutely clear that what he means is that the evidence, the most damning evidence, because you can't charge somebody with conspiracy to commit child sex trafficking without identifying who the co-conspirators are. This evidence has been in the custody of President Trump's enemies, and it is not only highly likely, but now proven that they have salted this with poison pills, with fake evidence, by witness the fact that the Wall Street Journal, owned by the Trump-hating globalist Rupert Murdoch, irresponsibly posted this birthday card that Trump allegedly gave to Jeffrey Epstein, in which he says, "Happy birthday, we share another year of sharing our secret." This is the most obvious fugazi, fraud I have ever seen. And then I learned that Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna has been contacted by a whistleblower who can document the destruction of Epstein evidence in New York. Anna Paulina Luna joins us now.
Hey, Roger, how you doing?
I am really honored to have you on the show. There's a lot to talk about. Your investigation into the government's handling of the records regarding the John F. Kennedy assassination, this Epstein issue. Let's start there. Tell us what you know, what you can about this whistleblower, what you think has transpired regarding the Epstein evidence.
Yeah, so I basically came across this information back in late February of this year, actually. So, you're seeing a lot of people right now, specifically members of Congress, who some of them have not been so fond or supportive of the president. So that's kind of a separate argument, right? Because I've been really on this, and it seemed like for a little bit I was one of the most critical as to the handling of the files. But as this transpired, so back in late January, I was made aware of an individual who was a former special agent that actually went public and stated that they were aware that there was destruction of evidence taking place at the FBI that started actually under the former deputy director, Paul Abates, who was a Biden appointee, and that this destruction of evidence actually continued under Kash Patel's leadership, but without his knowledge, and that it was well known among many of the agents at the FBI that this was not only partisan, but also he said that he felt that it had to do with Epstein and also documents pertaining back to everything involved with Russia collusion. And so I thought that was kind of interesting, because if you're looking at what's happening right now, especially with the bombshell evidence drop that Tulsi just dropped literally within the last 24 hours, and you see that the that the Obama administration really not only falsified an intel report as a means to get a FISA warrant, which ultimately ended up in the illegal surveillance of the president, and then also was the foundation for Russiagate. And then you see that there is someone who came forward, and this is not timing. This is actually documented back in February. I made sure to, again, contact the FBI, and to my knowledge now, there is an open investigation into this. I cannot name the individual that was named in this apparent scheme is what it was. But I do feel like if you have, and this is just my opinion, if you have someone who's willing to destroy evidence or people that are willing to destroy evidence, they're essentially tampering with evidence. And that also means, too, just like they can erase it, they can also plant evidence and information. So I do think it's incredibly important that Pam goes through, and she's already made the motion to unseal those grand jury testimonies. And I think when you see that happen, what's interesting is it's very likely that one of the judges involved in this process is going to be a Democrat. I just want to remind people that back in November of 23, Senator Dick Durbin, who's still actually a senator currently, he actually was responsible for blocking a subpoena that Marsha Blackburn wanted to send in regards to the Epstein flight log. So I ask people, you're seeing all this spin happening right now. And then even just 2 days ago, Senator Dick Durbin, for the very same flight logs he wanted to block, then sent a message to Pam Bondi, publicly released it within 24 hours of the Wall Street Journal article, and actually had asked for the same information and then went a step further. So they are using this as a partisan game. But the fact is, and I can say this without a doubt, that I do not believe that President Trump was involved in Jeffrey Epstein's illegal activities. It is well documented from Ghislaine Maxwell that she stated on a number of occasions that President Trump, again, was not involved. And then not just that, but President Trump was one of the only people when Epstein actually got rolled up that was able to assist with investigators. So when he made those statements, I asked, and I actually volunteered. I said, I will go on any outlet across the country to talk about this. And within 24 hours, I'd gone on about 10 news outlets, but those outlets that did not want to have me, they booked me and then canceled me twice, were CNN and then also to ABC. So you're noticing that there is evidence here. This has been documented in March because of a result of me finding out about the evidence destruction. I actually had introduced the SHRED Act that would increase the mandatory minimums for any official that was caught destroying evidence. And then now you're seeing, the same members of Congress who ignored that, didn't want to get involved in it. Now they're using this. In my opinion, some of them are using it to try to beat up the president. Meanwhile, they wanted nothing to do with the investigation. And so, look, I was one of the first people who was very critical about how the DOJ handled it. But because I know the inside and I'm putting together the pieces and I've been following this, I'm happy to say that I actually am very much forward looking towards Pam Bondi unsealing those indictments. And frankly, I think that the American people should just be aware of what's truly happening. It's unfortunate, but you're seeing that there's a bigger scheme at play here.
Yeah, I could not agree more. My 2015 book, The Clintons' War on Women, the longest chapter in the book is called Orgy Island. I'm the first author in the country to expand on the criminal nature of Jeffrey Epstein and what he was doing. The truth is, Donald Trump cut Jeffrey Epstein off in 2005 before he was exposed and charged with sex crimes in Florida, whereas the Clintons continued to not only socialize with him, but between the time Epstein was indicted and the time that he pled guilty to a slap on the wrist, they took a $25,000 contribution from him. They would subsequently take millions of dollars to him. So all of these Democrats jumping up and down about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, where's the list? Where's the list? They're going to be very unhappy with the list, and here's why. It is commonly known that Epstein's little black book was sold to a journalist by his butler, Alfredo Rodriguez, who is now deceased. That doesn't mean everybody in his phone book was involved in pedophilia, but Rodriguez circled the names of those he said were either involved or were material witnesses to pedophilia and to child sex trafficking. And the people who are most prominent who visited this island are, to a person, on the political side, Democrats. President Bill Clinton, Governor Bill Richardson of New Mexico, U.S. Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell of Maine, Bill Gates. So Donald Trump never visited the island, never visited Epstein in his Paris home, never visited his ranch in New Mexico, never went to his New York residence, which is the largest and most expensive residential single-family property in all of Manhattan. And the one and only time that Donald Trump went to his Palm Beach home, it was for a charity fundraiser, and we have the sworn testimony of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, who said that she saw Trump there. He was a perfect gentleman, and she had no reason to believe that he was involved in any inappropriate activity. So this is a canard being pushed by the hard left. And I think my friend Alex Jones really got to the bottom of this. We have so many great things happening in the country. A record Dow, low inflation, illegal border crossings dropped by 98%, the largest illegal immigrant deportation operation in history, a stable dollar, low inflation rates, record revenues from tariffs. We had a surplus in June for the first time in decades. But the media wants to talk about nothing but Jeffrey Epstein and to smear Donald Trump. This is the fact that Donald Trump was on Epstein's plane once is absolutely correct. His wife at the time, Marla Maples, who was at my wedding with Donald Trump, and his daughter Tiffany and a nanny were on the plane at the same time. It went from New York to Palm Beach on a Friday and from Palm Beach back to New York on Sunday. So what? That proves nothing whatsoever. It is an outrageous smear. When we come back with Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna in just a minute, I want to ask her for an update on her courageous role in uncovering more evidence regarding the murder of President John F. Kennedy on November 22nd, 1963. She's done an amazing job of holding the deep state accountable, as certain agencies of government have not fulfilled their responsibilities under President Trump's order that everything, and he did mean everything, be released. She has some blockbuster revelations about that investigation. We'll be right back with Congressman Anna Paulina Luna, firebrand, America First Patriot. I'm proud to say now, my friend, she's doing an amazing job for her country, for her district, for her state. And I'd like her to run to the United States Senate. I really would. She's going to get there one way or another someday. We'll be right back with the Congresswoman right here in the Roger Stone Show. Please, whatever you do, folks, don't touch that dial.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back. We're talking to Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, represents Florida's 13th district. It is only because of the persistence and the relentlessness of Congresswoman Luna that the deep state has been forced to disgorge documents just days ago that show us that for 6 decades, the CIA has lied about their knowledge, tracking, and in fact their handling of Lee Harvey Oswald. After an epic struggle, the CIA finally turned over the files regarding a man named George Joannides. I always mispronounce his name. A CIA operative who, under an alias, was essentially Oswald's handler. And we now know that Joannides maneuvered Oswald into that street scuffle in New Orleans, where Oswald was handing out pro-Castro flyers, got into a street fight in an effort to position Lee Harvey Oswald as a pro-Castro communist for the setup that was to come. This is an amazing accomplishment. Congresswoman, tell us a little bit about how you got this and what it shows.
Yeah, so when I initially had started the investigation, there's been researchers studying the assassination on JFK, like yourself, for decades. And so I was able to partner with an individual by the name of Jeff Morley, who had some outstanding documents. And so I kind of got that list and I went from there. And I will say, credit due where it's deserved. Director Ratcliffe actually wanted to ensure that President Trump's executive order was followed through. And so we just kept going back saying we're missing this one. We actually had people going through all, tens of thousands of documents that were dumped onto the archives. And what I will tell you is, we had people like the Washington Post that were attending our hearings, and they were basically trying to say that we were pushing a conspiracy theory. And then after the Joannides file ended up dropping, the tune changed, and they actually were forced to print for the first time since the assassination of President Kennedy, because if you look at the Washington Post history, they're actually a part of parroting the CIA's narrative about Oswald being a lone gunman. And we know now that this is completely false. And in the findings of the actual task force, if I were to sum it up, which we're still waiting on a few more documents, but what I will tell you is, based on the evidence that we have now, it is apparent and it is documented that President Kennedy was not just shot from the behind, but he was also shot from the front, meaning there was more than one shooter. The CIA definitely denied the lone gunman theory. The proof of the Joe Nedes files doesn't just prove that the CIA lied to Congress and intentionally tried to derail the investigations, but it also points to the fact that Oswald couldn't have been the shooter because of the fact that he was definitely, in my opinion, not capable of taking the shot. And so we are also able to get, and this is something that, I just announced a few days ago, but for the first time ever, the Russian government will be releasing the KGB findings and investigations into Lee Harvey Oswald. And that's incredibly important because in the 90s, the congressional investigators that were going back and looking at the Kennedy files tried to obtain those documents, and they were denied. And so those will be available to the American people. To my understanding and dealing with the embassy, they're going to be putting that information out publicly, just like they did on the National Archives. But what's interesting about those files, from what I'm being told, is Lee Harvey Oswald was actually under surveillance of the KGB when he was in Russia. And he was a terrible shot. And according to the psychological profile, he would not have met the profile of someone who would have been able to plot an assassination in the way that the CIA tried to pin him as doing it. So these are all things that when you put the mosaic together and you see what's really happening here, you realize that, for the CIA to make that admission, that's a big deal. People say, well, why should we care about it? Well, look at what's happening right now. Look at what Tulsi just released. I mean, if we don't flush out the corruption, if we don't put the truth out there, then it can ultimately repeat itself. And I believe in some ways that's exactly what they try to do with President Trump. So it's very serendipitous in timing that this is all coming out now.
Yeah, this will be the second time that the KGB documents have proven something important. Richard Nixon's rise to national prominence was because he claimed that Alger Hiss, a high-level State Department official working for Franklin Roosevelt, was in fact a Russian communist spy. Ultimately, Hiss would be convicted of perjury. The American left denied repeatedly that this was a smear, it was outrageous, that Nixon had destroyed Hiss. In the 90s, the KGB, the successor to the KGB, released the records that proved definitively that Alger Hiss was indeed a Russian spy. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna has introduced a bill to put President Donald Trump's visage, his image, on Mount Rushmore. If you support her bill, you can go to onemoreforrushmore.com. That's onemoreforrushmore.com, where we are rallying public support behind Congresswoman Anna Paulina's bill to put President Trump's image up on Mount Rushmore with other great presidents. Now, certain leftists say that the current memorial is so fragile that adding Trump could endanger the whole thing. I've talked to the design people, I've talked to the construction people, I've talked to all those involved. The technology is such that Anna Paulina's bill could be carried out, that Donald Trump could be added without any danger to the existing Mount Rushmore Memorial in South Dakota. Folks, please go to onemoreforrushmore.com. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, thank you so much for joining us today in the Roger Stone Show, and thanks for your firebrand conservative leadership to keep America first and support the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln. God bless you.
Thanks for listening to The Roger Stone Show. You can hear The Roger Stone Show Sunday afternoons at 3. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?